Hilchos Shabbos Perek Shishi. The laws of Shabbat, chapter 6. Today the topic is Amiran Lenochri. Talking to Goyim, giving them instructions about doing work on Shabbos, and also about Esek, doing business with Goyim, as it relates to the laws of Shabbos. Amen. Here we go. Let's get right to it. Halacha Aleph Asur Lomar Lenochri La'asot Lanu Melacha B'Shabbat. We are not allowed to tell a Goy, a Gentile, to do work for us on Shabbos, Afal Pi She'eino Mitzuveh Ala Shabbat, even though he's not commanded about Shabbos. If you look over here in the Pasuk, Ba'aseret HaDibrot, what does it say? V'yom hashvi Shabbat L'Hashem Elokecha, Lo ta'aseh kol melacha. Who cannot do work? Ata, uvincha, uvitecha, avdecha, v'amatcha, v'shorcha, v'chamorcha. You, your kids, and your animals, and even your slaves, and even your animals. V'chol be'emtecha, v'gercha asher b'sharecha. But nowhere does it say Goyim. So, he's not commanded about Shabbos. So you would think maybe we can tell him to do whatever we want. No. Even if you gave him the instruction before Shabbos, and even if you're only going to need the actual work after Shabbos, but he's doing it on Shabbos, that's forbidden. It's not biblical. This is rabbinic. So Shabbos shouldn't become light in the eyes of the Jews, and they're going to come to do malacha themselves. If people have a license to get, to ask Goyim to do work for them, after a while, you start treating it cheaply, and you'll do whatever you want, whenever you want. The Rebbe once explained it's like chametz. How come chametz is so strict? Even b'kol shehu, usually, forbidden foods, you have to eat a certain amount of kazarit or something. Comes to chametz, even the tiniest bit is forbidden. Why? The commentaries explain because lo bedile minei, which means nobody's separate from it. All year round we eat chametz, so we're so used to it. So if you don't forbid it to the extreme, people are going to come to be confused. Same thing with Shabbos. Everyone does malacha all week long. We do work, no problem. So when it comes to Shabbos, we have to be extra strict, not even allow instructions to a non-Jew. Halacha bet. Nochri she'asa melacha me'atzmo b'Shabbat. What if a goy did melacha on his own? Nobody asked him to. Im bishvil Yisrael asa ota. If he did it for a Jew, asur lehanot b'ota melacha ad motzei Shabbat. Nobody. Kol b'nei Yisrael, the commentaries say. Nobody can benefit from this work until after Shabbos. V'yamtin b'chedesha te'aseh, and you also have to wait the time it would take to do that melacha. V'hu, and even there, shelo yehei hadavar b'farhesia, I cannot be in public. Ad sheyedu bo rabim shedavar zeh b'shvil ploni hu na'asa b'Shabbat, until a multitude of people know that it was done for a Jew. If a lot of people know that it was done for a Jew, even after Shabbos it's forbidden. We're going to soon see an example, even after death. You can't bury a Jew in a place where it was made if everybody knew it was for a Jew. We'll see about that. But if a guy did only for himself, mutar lehanot ba b'Shabbat, you can go afterwards and enjoy it on Shabbos. What if he did it for himself and for you? Also asur. The Rambam just discusses for you and for himself. If it's for both, it's forbidden. Halacha gimel ketzad. What does that look like? What does it mean for himself, for you? Nochri shehidlik et haner. If a guy lit a candle, a lamp, mishtamesh lo'oro Yisrael, a Jew can use the light. V'im bishvil Yisrael, if he did it for the Jew, asur, then it's forbidden. Asa nochri kevesh lered bo min asfina. That's what I had the picture there before. A guy made a ramp, a gangplank, to go off a boat. Yered acharav Yisrael, a Jew who was on the ship, can follow. V'im bishvil Yisrael, but if he did it for the Jew, asur, it's forbidden. Another example. Milei mayim lahashkot behemto. He filled up water to give his animal to drink. That would be a prohibition of removing from one reshut to another reshut, one domain to another. Mashkeh acharav Yisrael, no problem. Jew can have his animal drink afterwards. V'im bishvil Yisrael asur, but again, if it was for the Jew, it's forbidden. Liket asavim laha'achil li behemto. If a guy picked grass, picking grass is a melacha. You can't do ktsira, you can't reap on Shabbos. He did it for his animal, only for his animal. Maniach Yisrael behemto le'echol mehen. The Jew can let his animal eat after them. Here he says maniach Yisrael. He has to leave it go because you can't actively lead your animal. It's muktzah, but you can let your animal eat from the grass. V'hu, and again, shelo yehei oto hanochri makir lo'oto Yisrael. Here, we have to make sure that a guy doesn't even know this Jew. Shema yarbeh b'mlachto b'shvilo, because even if he's doing it for himself, maybe he'll pick a little more grass because he knows that the Jew is coming after him. But nimtzao seh b'shvil Yisrael, and it will turn out that he's doing it for a Jew as well. V'chen kol davar she'efshar laharbot bo, and the same thing applies to anything which you could do more of. Lo yehaneh bo b'Shabbat elei im ken eino makiro. A Jew cannot benefit on Shabbos unless you don't know the guy. Halacha daled aval davar she'en bo laharbot u'lema'et. But the first two examples in the last halacha, where there's no increasing and decreasing, you can't light more of a lamp or less of a lamp. You lit the lamp, it's lit. You made the gangplank, it's made. There's no more or less. You can go nerva kevesh, like the lamp and the ramp. Once the guy did it for himself, the Jew can have benefit from this work of the guy, even if he knows the guy, because even if you say the guy also had the Jew in mind, but the Poel Mamash actively, he lit it for himself, and that's all. You can only light the lamp once. If you have a lamp that's lit in a tunnel or in a hallway on Shabbos, you have to see who benefits most, who uses this place most. Im Rav Yisrael, asur l'ishtamesh le'ora. If most of the people in the area are Jews, you can't use the light. Shahamadlik al dat harov madlik, because whoever's lighting these lamps is going around thinking about the majority of people over here, which is the Jews in this case. V'im rav nochrim mutar l'ishtamesh le'ora. But if most of the people are goyim, then we assume that he lit it for the goyim, and you can use the light. Mechetza le'mechetza. If it's half and half, exactly 50% of the population is goyim and 50 is yidden, asur, it's still forbidden. Because once you have half and half, you assume stringently that it was for the Jews. Naflad le'ka b'Shabbat, if you have a fire on Shabbos in a house, uba nochri lechabot, and a goy comes to extinguish the fire. En omrin lo kabeh ve'al techabeh. We don't give him any instructions. We don't say extinguish here, and we also don't say don't extinguish there. He came to help. Very good. Let him extinguish however he wants. His resting on the Shabbos isn't our responsibility, so we cannot give him instructions.
Isn't it like pikuach nefesh?
Oh, very good. Isn't it pikuach nefesh? So later on, the Rambam is going to say that if the fire is affecting people, then indeed it's pikuach nefesh, and you can do it even a Jew. But here we're talking about a case where there's no people, no loss of life involved, no danger to a person. It's simply a storage house is on fire, whatever it is. So then you can't give the guy instructions. The same applies to everything that's like that. It says the Rambam halacha hey, met sha'asulo nochrim aron. You have a dead person. The Jew passed away. The guy made for him a coffin. B'chafru lo kever b'Shabbat, and they dug him a grave on Shabbos. O heviu lo chalilim lispod b'hem, and they brought some flutes for the eulogy. Apparently they used to use certain flutes in their songs that they used to do over there. But they brought it on Shabbos. In bitzin'ah, if they did it in secret, so nobody knows that it was done for him, you still can't use it on Shabbos. But yamtin b'chdei she'yasu l'motzei Shabbat v'yikaver bo. Wait the time it takes after Shabbos. Let's say it takes an hour to dig a grave. Wait an hour, and then bury this Jew in the grave. But if the grave was in a massive public place and the coffin was right there, everyone's saying, you see these goyim, they're digging a grave. Everybody knows they're digging for a Jew that's going to be buried after Shabbos. That Jew cannot be buried ever in this grave because it was done in public. Another Jew can be buried there. So long as you wait the time it takes to make the grave, and the same applies to all other cases. Halacha vav. If a guy brought flutes for a dead person on Shabbos, even though he brought them from the side of the wall, in other words, not from a very far place, he didn't transgress any sort of tchum, exactly. You still must wait on Motzei Shabbat, enough time for him to come from a close by place, and then only then eulogize the person with them. Why? Even though he came on Shabbos day from the wall, maybe on Friday night, he brought them from somewhere else till the wall. Only but in the morning he came in with them. So therefore, you have to always assume the worst, that he actually did transgress Shabbos and came out of the tchum. But if you know for sure, no, the guy only brought it from this address, it was in Sherman Oaks, he didn't leave the city, you know for sure where he brought the flutes from, then indeed, you only have to wait the time it takes to come from that place after Shabbos. Either way, you have to make sure it wasn't in a public square, so people know about it. People can't know about it, but as long as people don't know about it, then you're good. You have a city, Jews and non-Jews live in it. And you had a mikveh, a bathhouse. Where's my mikveh over here? Oh, steaming hot tub, and it's working on Shabbos. If most of the city is inhabited by non-Jews, the Jew can go in, the second Shabbos is over, and enjoy the mikveh. Because even though it was heated up on Shabbos, but it was heated up for the majority who's goyim. If it was mostly Jews in the city, so even though the owners of the bathhouse might be goyim, which was okay for them to warm a bath, but they did it for you. You have to wait enough time it takes to heat up the whole mikveh, because when they were heated originally, they were heated for the majority. Mechetza, the same thing, we go stringent. Yamtin b'chdei sheyechamu chamin, you wait the time it takes to heat up hot water, v'chein kol kayotze bazeh, and the same applies in any similar cases. By the way, when the Rambam says mostly Jews, mostly Gentiles, in this halacha, it means not most of the people in the city. It means most of the people that are using the bathhouse. You have to know who the customers are. Halacha chet. Yisrael she'amar l'nochri la'asot l'melacha zu b'Shabbat. If a Jew tells a guy to do this labor for him on Shabbos, afal pi she'avar umakinoto makat mardut. Okay, you transgressed. You did something wrong. We're going to hit you in court for it. You're going to get rabbinic lashes. Mutar lo lehanot ve'otam melacha la'erev achar she'yamtin b'chdei she'te'aseh. The very same Jew can benefit from the work in the evening after he waits the time it takes to do the work. And that's the whole reason why the sages forbade to use the malacha right away. You have to wait the time it takes. Only for this reason. If you're going to say, you know what, if you transgressed, you can have benefit from the malacha right away on Motzei Shabbat. He'll tell the guy to do it on Shabbos purposely. He'll say, oh yeah, I forgot, I didn't realize. And then right after Shabbos, he has his work ready for him. Since anyways the sages forbade doing the work till you wait the time it takes to do it, you're not going to tell a guy to do it on Shabbos. You aren't gaining anything. Anyways, you're going to be delayed in the evening. The time it takes to do this thing that was done on Shabbos. Let's say you have something which isn't considered labor by the laws of the Torah. And the only reason you can't do it on Shabbos is rabbinic. Shvut is the term for rabbinic laws that are forbidden on Shabbos. Then, mutar li Yisrael lomar lenochri la'asoto b'Shabbat. You're allowed to tell a guy straight up to do it on Shabbos. V'hu, provided sheyesh sham miktzat choli, o yeyeh tzarich ladavar tzorech harbe, o mipnei mitzvah. Either there's some sickness, or there's a great need for it. The Alter Rebbe gives the example if you have things that are outside and they're going to get destroyed in the rain. Tell a guy to bring it in. Or for a mitzvah. For a mitzvah, some even say you could do a full malacha. But the Rambam says for a mitzvah you can only do things that are not a malacha. You give a direct instruction to a guy in order to prepare the mitzvah, get it ready, do whatever it is. Halacha yud keitza, what would be an example of transgressing rabbinic law for a mitzvah? Omer Yisrael l'nochri b'Shabbat, a Jew can tell a guy on Shabbos la'alot ba'ilan or lashut al pnei hamayim, to climb up a tree or to swim on the water, kidei lahavilo shofar o sakin lemila. You have a shofar stuck in a tree, or your knife for the brit is stuck in the water. So you tell the guy, go get me the shofar, or go get me the knife. Swimming and climbing a tree is not forbidden biblically. It's forbidden only rabbinically. So you can tell him, or you can bring from one chatzer to the other. Remember this classic Jewish city? You have the public streets, then you have two courtyards, and a mavoy, a shared alleyway. Unless you made a certain mechanism called a lechi, you can't carry from one chatzer to the other. But if you need for the mitzvah, you can tell a guy to bring it from here to there. You can bring him mayim chamin, lahar chitzbah, makatano mitztaer. You can tell him to bring hot water to wash a child who's in pain. And the same applies in all similar situations, that you can tell a guy to transgress rabbinic law to fulfill your mitzvah or to take care of a little bit of sickness. Halacha yud aleph. Halokeach bayit be'eretz Yisrael min hanochri. A person who buys a home in Israel from a non-Jew, mutar lo lomar lanochri lichtov lo shtar b'Shabbat. You're allowed to ask him to write the document of sale on Shabbos. She'amira lenochri b'Shabbat asura ben divrei. Because the whole prohibition of telling a guy on Shabbos to do work is only rabbinic. Umishum yishuv eretz Yisrael lo gazru b'davar zeh. To ensure settling the land of Israel, the sages took away their prohibition. Tell a guy to write a document on Shabbos so you can finalize your sale. Also, if you buy a house from them in Syria, Syria is like, it's not exactly Syria, but it's an area that was conquered by David HaMelech up there in the north, and it has many laws that are similar to Israel in many ways. We're going to see later, especially in the 7th book, the book of agriculture. So you're going to see a lot of laws about Syria related to Eretz Yisrael. So if you buy a house from Goyim in Syria, same thing, have them write the document. Syria Eretz Yisrael davar zeh, because for this matter, Syria is considered to be like Israel. Halacha yud bet. Now we move to work. Have a guy doing work for you. Posek adamim hanochri al hamelacha v'kotzetz damim. You can decide with a guy that he's going to do a job for you, and you decide the price. V'hanochri oseh le'atzmo, and the guy can work on his own. Basically what we call today a contractor. He works by the job, not by the hour. You give him a job, say I'm going to pay you $1,000 to do this job, then he can do it for himself. Even if he works on Shabbos, it's permitted. By the way, the guy can only do work in his house. He can't do it in your house. Then it's still forbidden. Somebody who hires a guy for many days, mutar afal pishu aseh b'Shabbat, it's permitted even though he's working on Shabbos. Okay, this is a pretty big novelty. Okay, but let's first learn the Rambam, what he says. If you hired a guy for a year, let's say, you work for me for a year. I'm going to pay you every day a certain amount. You can have him work on Shabbos. Keita, what does that mean? You hired a guy for a year or two, you're going to write me my book. I'm working on my manuscript, I need a copyist, write my book. Or make all my clothes, make me a new wardrobe. According to the Rambam, this guy can write and can weave on Shabbos, no problem. Because it's as though you gave him a job, even though the words that you used were, I'm hiring you for a year or 2 years for time, but because the point was to write you something or to weave you something, so it's as though you gave him a job. He can do whatever he wants. Of course, you cannot give him a salary per day. You can't say, I'm giving you, this is for Shabbos, this is for Sunday. You can't do that. Now, exactly. Now, the Ravid, who's one of the primary commentators, just says, no way. At the end of the day, if he does work on Shabbos, you're having pleasure from the fact that he did work on Shabbos. So, it's absolutely forbidden. Nevertheless, in Shulchan Aruch, the halacha is ruled like the Rambam, so long as there's no specific time commitment, what we call today a retainer, where he doesn't have to work a certain amount of hours every day. You're hiring him by the day, but he has to get the job done, not the day's time of work. And then you can say that he's not having, that even if he does work on Shabbos, you're not benefiting him from his work on Shabbos because he could do it the next day. There's no time commitment that he has to, clock in on Shabbos a certain amount of hours. So it's fine, but that condition has to be met, whereas according to the Rambam, it's straight up permitted. Let's see, halacha yud gimel. When does all of this apply? B'tzin'ah. Again, if he's doing it privately. That not everybody knows that the work that's being done over here is done for a Jew. But if it was known and revealed and publicized, asura, then it's forbidden. Even if you do all the right conditions, and even if no one sees, just known, just yudu'ah, bad news. Because a person who sees a guy doing work, he has no idea that he has a forward contract, the price was already decided. He's going to say, maybe this Jew hired the guy on Shabbos, big problems. Therefore, by the way, the commentaries say it only applies for an individual. But when it comes to a guy serving the public, there's no worry that we're going to think that the Jew hired him on Shabbos. That's why goyim are allowed to work in a shul or in a public place on Shabbos, because for tzorchei rabim. No one's going to think that we hired this guy just for Shabbos. Everybody knows we hired him on a salary. So it's a whole different thing. Halacha yudalad lefichach, therefore. Haposekim anochri livnot lo chatzero o katlo o liktzor et sadeu. You decide with a guy that he's going to build you your whole courtyard or build your wall or cut your field. Or you hired him for a year or 2 years to get your chatzer built or to get your vineyard planted. If the work was being done in the province, inside the boundaries of the city, you cannot let them work on Shabbos. Because people that will see don't know that you already decided the amount. But if the work was being done outside the boundaries of the city, mutar, then it's permitted. Because no Jew is going there. A Jew can't pass the boundary on Shabbos. He isn't going to end up there to see and to worry about the guy doing work for the Jew. Right. Parasya. The moment that there's a suspicion that a Jew will think that another Jew hired a guy on Shabbos, you're out. You can even rent out your vineyard, or sadeo, or your field lenochri, to a guy. Even if he's going to plant them or plant trees or plants on Shabbos. Apparently, when things were rented out or a sharecropper, that worked for a percentage, people knew that it was a guy's, that he owned it. But if it's something which everybody associates with the owner who is a Jew, and it's something which people don't usually rent out or give out for a percentage, you cannot indeed rent it out to a guy, because the guy is going to do malacha on Shabbos, and everybody thinks, he's using Chaim Yankel Shmedel's thing on Shabbos. You can rent out or lend out different utensils to a goy, even if he uses them on Shabbos for work. You gave him, a mixer to use in his house. That's no problem. We don't have to have our utensils rest on Shabbos. You cannot give your animal or your servant to God. That's for sure not. We saw before in the verse, right? What do we have over here? Who can't do work? You and your servant. But your vessels in your house, your bowls and your mixers, doesn't say anywhere. Therefore, you can give it to a guy, no problem. Halacha Yud Zayin. What if you're partners with a guy? Work, merchandise, a store. How do you do a partnership with a guy? This is very practical even today. People work in partnership with a guy, they don't want to get salary for Shabbos. What do you do? According to the Rambam, if they stipulate to begin with, that the guy is going to take all the profit of Shabbos, a little bit or a lot. And let's say Tuesday is going to be all for the Jew, and then the other days are going to share. Mutar, that's permitted. But if they did not stipulate in the beginning, so now when they come to divide the profits, the guy gets extra benefits. He gets all the profit of Shabbos, and only the rest you divide. You cannot add anything to make up for the Shabbos profits, unless they made the stipulation to begin with. The same thing is true if you got a field, din echadhu, it's all the same law. You have to make the stipulation to begin with. Otherwise, if you're doing it afterwards, so it looks like the commentaries say you're paying for the work of Shabbos by working for another day. So you can say, you know what, I'll do, like the guy will do work on the other day, on Tuesday, for you, so you can pay him on Shabbos. Anyway, the Rambam Shulchan Aruch writes that if both people work simultaneously, it's not like one day this guy does, one day that guy does. Both of them are in the store constantly, and on Shabbos only the guy. So then actually, counterintuitively, the Jew could take the profits from the guy. Because when people will pass by the guy's store, it will seem like he's doing work for himself. And when a guy does work for himself, it's okay. Okay. Halacha Yudchet. V'im lo yitnu. They didn't make a condition. They came to divide the profits. V'lo haya schar Shabbat yadua. And you don't know how much was made on Shabbos. You don't have the proper accounting. Yira'eli, says the Rambam, it seems to me, you divide it by 7. You give the guy a seventh of the profit, and the rest you divide. What if you're an investor? You give money to a guy, he should make work with them, and you get some royalties or some of the profits. Here, since you have no involvement in the money, even if the guy is going to do business on Shabbos with the money, you can take immediately, no problem, half of the profits. So said all the Gaonim, they ruled this way because he's not considered to be your shaliach, because the Jew never has to do any work. Halacha Yutet. Lo yiten adam be'erev Shabbat kelim le'uman nachri la'asotan. You cannot on Erev Shabbat give some utensils to a goyish artisan or a craftsman to make them. Afal pisha pasak imo. Even if you paid him in advance or you decided the price in advance. Ela bichdei sheyitzei bahen mibeito kodem shechashecha. It has to be early enough before Shabbos that he can leave your house with the stuff before it gets dark. Otherwise, it looks like you gave it to him on Shabbos. You can't sell your property to a guy. You shouldn't lend him stuff. You shouldn't lend him money. You shouldn't take collateral from him. You shouldn't give him gifts. Unless there's enough time that he can leave your house with the object before Shabbos. As long as it's in your house, nobody knows when you gave it to him. If a guy is going to leave your house on Shabbos holding a Jewish object, it's going to look like it'll seem like you lent him the money, or you took the collateral, or you decided the contract, or you sold him on Shabbos. Okay, here we have the USPS. You gave a guy a letter, and you want him to bring it to the next city. If you decided the price of how much you're going to pay him to bring the letter, mutar, then it's permitted. So long as you don't tell him directly to bring it there on Shabbos. You just give him the letter and you tell him to go. Even if you gave it to him on Friday evening as it was getting dark. Again, he has to leave your house before Shabbos, but otherwise it's okay. V'im lo katzatz, if you did not decide a price, so it could be you're not really paying him for the job, you're paying him for the hours. Says the Rambam like this: Im yesh ba medina adam kavua. If there's in this area a set person, or a post office, or a set mailman, shehu mekabetz ha'igrot v'sholech otam lechol medina medina im shlucha, that he gathers all the letters, and he has his own people working for him, and they send letters, then mutar l'ten l'nochri ha'igeret, you can give the guy the letter. V'hu sheyesh shahut bayom kedei sheyagia labayit hasamuch lachoma kodem haShabbat, so he can reach as long as there's enough time, he can reach the furthest house closest to the wall on Shabbos. Because maybe the mailman, the post office, the guy who gets the letters, maybe his house is right near the wall. But if there's no set mailman, the guy you gave the letter to, he's going to be the one to bring the letter to the next city and get in, tell him a price. You can never send a letter in the hands of this guy. Unless you previously decided the price. Otherwise, it's like paying him for working on Shabbos. Halacha chaf aleph. By the way, what if you gave it to him on Thursday? No price. You gave it to him on Thursday. The Rambam says that it's okay, because it's not. You don't see the association to Shabbos. So only if it's on Friday you have this problem. Others say no, doesn't make a difference. If you didn't make a price, it's working on Shabbos, you have a problem. Halacha chaf aleph. Nochri shehevi chafatzav b'Shabbat v'yichnisan lebeit Yisrael. A guy comes with a whole bunch of stuff on Shabbos, puts it into a Jewish house. Mutar, that's permitted. Va'afilu amarlo, even if the Jew instructs, hanichan bezavid zu, put it in this corner. Harezem mutar, it's permitted. He's doing his own stuff. Umezamnin anochri b'Shabbat, you can even invite a guy on Shabbos for your meal. V'notrin lefanav mizanot le'ochlan, put food in front of him to eat. V'im natlan v'yatza, if he chooses to take the burger and go out of the house. Ein nizkakim lo, we don't have to worry about him. Mipnei she'ein shvitato aleinu, because we don't have the commandment to make him rest. You can also feed a dog in your courtyard on Shabbos. And if he takes the food and goes away, we don't have to deal with that. It's their problem. You can feed him, and that's okay.
Can you sit at the same table with the guy?
On Shabbos, it's okay. Holiday, it's not so simple, by the way. It's interesting. On Shabbos, it's...
I know Pesach for sure.
Yeah. Well, you have the issues with the wine, but also cooking for a guy on holiday is worse. So... because on Yom Tov you can cook. So whenever you can cook, there's a chashash that you're going to cook more for the guy, which is forbidden. On Shabbos you can't cook, you're cooking before Shabbos, so it's okay. Halacha chaf bet. You're traveling on the road, boom. Sun sets on Friday night, it's Shabbos. And you have money in your pocket. No problem, give your wallet to the guy that's with you and have him take it. Right after Shabbos, take it back. Even though you didn't pay him for it, even if you give it to him after it becomes dark, mutar, it's permitted. Because people are very worried about their money. To throw away the wallet is not an option. If the sage is not going to allow the Jew to give it to a guy, which only rabbinic, no question, a Jew with his money, they're not going to part. He's going to take it with his hands and he's going to carry it. And he's going to transgress a biblical prohibition. So therefore the rabbi said, okay, no problem, give it to the guy. We're talking only about your wallet, but if you found a lost object, tons of money, that you don't have to give to a guy. Carry it yourself by going less than 4 amot. And then it's not considered carrying. Other commentators say, what are you talking about? If you found the money, then leave it. It's not in your bank account. Just forget about it. Exactly. The Rambam says apparently, if you found some money, you need some money, so you take it with you, you carry it little by little. Halacha chaf gimel. Now we transition to general laws about work as an introduction for tomorrow, when we're going to learn all the actual malachot. Yisrael she'asa malacha b'Shabbat. If a Jew did work on Shabbos, im avar ve'asa bezadon, if he did it transgressed and willfully, asur lo lehanot be'ota malacha le'olam, he, the Jew, can never benefit from that work ever. Ush'ar Yisrael mutar lahem le'anot b'motzei Shabbat miyad. Other Jews can have pleasure from it right away on Motzei Shabbat. Shene'emar, as it says, ushmartem et Shabbat ki kodesh hi. You guard the Shabbos because it's holy. Hi kodesh ve'en ma'aseh kodesh. It's holy, but things done on it aren't holy. Keita, what does that mean? Yisrael should be shel b'Shabbat b'mezid. The Jew cooked the cholent on Shabbos purposely. L'motzei Shabbat, in the evening, ye'achel la'achirim, avalo lo ye'achel olamit. Others can have it, he can never have it ever. If he cooked it inadvertently, everybody can eat it after Shabbos right away, and anything similar is also allowed. Halacha chaf daled, perot sheyatzu chutz latchum v'chazru. If you have produce which left the boundary of the city and they came back in. So again, bishogeg, if you did it inadvertently, it's more lenient. And here, ye'achlu b'Shabbat, you could even eat it on Shabbos. Sharei na'aseh begufan ma'aseh v'lo nishtanu, they didn't change, it didn't do anything to them. B'mezid, if you did it on purpose, lo ye'achlu ad motzei Shabbat, you can only eat them after Shabbos is over. Halacha chaf hei, hasocheret ha'poel lishmor lo ta'para v'tatinok. You hire a worker to guard a cow or to guard a baby for you, babysitter. Lo yiten lo scharo shel Shabbat. You should never pay him for the work that he does on Shabbos. Lefichach, therefore, en achrayut Shabbat alav. Therefore, the worker doesn't take full responsibility for whatever happens on Shabbos. But if the guy is being paid by the week or by the year, so Shabbos isn't individual, you can pay him fully, no problem. Therefore, he does have the achrayut of Shabbat on him, and he's fully accountable every day. But when the guy comes to get paid, he should never say, "Ten li schari shel Shabbat," pay me for Shabbat. No, "Ten li schari shel shana shel asara yamim," pay me for the unit of the year or 10 days, and then the payment for Shabbos isn't counted and it isn't a problem.